Okay, so reminder, our quest next week is on Thursday. This week we had extra help on Wednesday and Thursday. I'll announce extra help again on Monday. Let's get started. So today's lesson, we are just writing recursive and explicit formulas for sequences that are given to us. We need to follow the instructions of what they ask for. So here they want a recursive formula. So I'm going to look at my sequence and I'm going to try to see if I can find a pattern. So here it's going up by 2, and then it's going up by 6, and now it's going up by 18. And, it doesn't really look like it has the same amount that it's moving by every time. So it's not going to fall into a arithmetic sequence category. However, if I try to make it fall into a geometric category, I can't find the same ratio. So there's no common ratio either. So this is the point where we have to try to get kind of creative here. So what you're going to notice about the terms of the differences is it's like a combination. First, there's an arithmetic pattern, and then there's a geometric pattern. If I divide these, it's 3. If I divide these, it's 3. So here's what we're going to do to get a little creative. We're still going to do what we normally do, and we're going to say our first term is 2. Now, in order to get from one term to the next, let's think about this. Well, if I go to the ratio of those differences I took, if I take 2 and I multiply it by 3, that ratio, I get 6. That overshot the 4 that I was trying to get to. I have to subtract 2 from that. So I'm going to see if I multiply by 2, if I multiply by 3 and then subtract 2, if that's going to work every time. So if I take my 4 and I multiply by 3, that brings me to 12. But then if I subtract the 2, it's going to bring me back down to 10. And if you try that for each piece of the sequence, it actually works. So what we're going to do is we're going to say, okay, well, if I wanted to find some term an, I'm going to take the term that came before, so that's an minus 1. I'm going to multiply it by 3, and then I'm going to subtract 2 from that. And that's going to be my recursive sequence. Okay? Let's take a look at example 2. They want a recursive formula, and they gave us an explicit formula for the sequence. So here they say, okay, if I have some term, so if I look, let's plug in 1 and see what our first term is. Here, my first term is going to be 2. And let's see what our next term would be. To find a2, I would plug in 2. It's going to be negative 6 times 8 plus 8 times 2, and that's going to give me 10. So if I start writing out the terms of the sequence, I have 2, and then 10, and then 18. Well, we definitely know if we're writing the recursive formula, we know what the first term is because we figured it out. Now let's see if we can find a nice pattern. Here, I have a common difference of 8. I have another common difference of 8. So it looks like this sequence is going to fall under the arithmetic umbrella. So if we have the second piece of our recursive formula, we're going to take a sub n. If we go to the term that came before it, all we have to do is add 8. So we didn't have to get as creative as we did for number 1. Now I'd like you to examine number 3. Think about what type of sequence this would fall under. And then maybe generate some of the terms to help you think about how you could write the recursive formula. So I want you to pause the video and try that. Okay, at this point, you've tried it. So I'm going to have you look here, and when I do this, it's negative 3 times, remember, anything to the 0 is 1. So this is going to be -3. And then if I go to find the next few terms, I have -3, I have -1.5, I have -0.75. So this is actually going to be a geometric sequence. Hopefully your math intuition told you that. And it's traveling by 1/2. So my A1 is -3. And to find the next term, A sub n, I go to the term that came before it. I'm going to scooch that over because it went out of the window. I go to my A sub n, and I go to the term that came before it, which remember we call A sub n minus 1, and I'm going to multiply it by the common ratio, which here was 1/2. And that's our generic way to be able to define this recursively. Okay, so for example 4, we're going in the other direction. I gave you the recursive rule, and I want you to write the explicit formula. So I would suggest that you write out the terms of the sequence for yourself to help you try to find the pattern if you're stuck. And remember, an explicit rule means that it's just one thing. If I want to find A sub n, what do I need to plug in for n to find it? So your answer should just be, if I want to find A sub n, what do I need to plug in to find it? It shouldn't be written as A1 and this. This form is the recursive form. So I'd like you to try these on your own. Once you finish these, you're going to bring these up to get them checked, and you're going to get the next part of your practice.